Okay, so what's next for the market? We had very bullish move yesterday on the ceasefire news. Um, yeah, so we're gonna start with that first, what it means and what the next move from now likely is. That will be for the free section, and then later on I continue for members, looking into HIMS and HERS, Novo Nordisk, PayPal, and some more. And I'm gonna tell something about market psychology, about what I've learned in my 15 years of trading. So, yeah, like I said, market very, very strong bullish. Um, yeah, does this change anything? No, it does not. Um, yeah, I think I already said in the last video that this was just one of the scenarios. I Here's the video from the last time. I said there's three options. We either go down right away, we are going to make a new high and then fail, or it's going to be something in the middle. We are still in the path that we're gonna roll over here in the middle, or we're gonna make a new high, fail, and then still go down. So in the last videos, I've showed you examples why I think that is going to happen, because if you look at the past, it, it usually goes like that. And with usually, I mean like 70% of the time, maybe even 80. And what I also see, I don't remember if I said it in the last video, but if you analyze charts um, on more than 100 years of data on any time frame, once you see a trend that is getting older, it is going to it is going to test previous ranges. So last year here with the tariff plunge, we tested the range from the high. We tested the high from a few years ago. So before that, here it was the 2022 market downturn. We did not hit it. So there's a gap, a very small gap here and here. So usually once the trends get older, it starts to test it. And once it did it for the first time, it's very likely to do it again. But right now, we didn't do it. So I'm sure that all the big traders, and I know a few myself, even guys with bigger accounts than me, they're very focused on statistics like this. They are not entering long positions, at least not on the broader market and not for the long term, until this, at least at the very minimum, has been hit. Because they don't like to trade against the odds, and that's also how I learned trading. Yeah, basically never make exceptions, never trade against the odds. So of course, there's people here listening to me now, and they say, well, this time is different, and it's going to shoot up. Well, it could shoot up. Channels overshoot like 30% of the time. Channels can overshoot, so 70% of the time they reverse. Bull channels, the same with bear channels. 30% of the time they accelerate late in the trend, and then they make an overshoot. Yeah, well, I'm not betting on it, and I've told you that before, and there's more reasons, but that's what I covered in the other videos. I just tried to say something else and not repeating myself every time I make a new video. But yeah, so if you want to show some examples about yeah, what will happen when a trend accelerates. Um, well, basically, oh, here this is the most clear example. So trend, just a normal channel, and then the trend decides to accelerate. So usually a channel like this one or this one, they reverse down, right? So up, down. That's what usually happens. So, but 30% of the time, this happens. But now look, you can already see that this could be one of the, if you're trading here and you see near the top of the channel, every dip gets bought and it keeps making higher highs, higher lows, higher high a few times in a row. Then you already think like, hey, this may be one of these channels, the 30% that is going to overshoot. Well, that's not what I was seeing here. Here I just see a very long sideways range. Um, it's very different. The momentum is already out of it. So it's not like people are buying and they can't get the share, so they keep raising their bids. No, they had plenty of time to buy here, but they just didn't do it. The market wasn't moving. Even the limit orders would have been filled. So it's different. That's also why I think it's not going to be an overshoot, but of course, anything can happen. Um, yeah, so looking ahead, um, I assume that for the yeah, there's so much bullish momentum in here. So the first dip is going to get bought up if we get it. So I assume we are at least going a little higher here, and then what I will be looking for is then when we see some hesitation, and then after the hesitation, after an lower high, so higher high, higher low, but then suddenly there is a lower high. And that's when I'm going to become very aggressive, um, shorting again. So and like I said just in the last video, of course, this it can overshoot, but then we still have the same problem. We didn't test back this range, and that's what needs to happen before you can get any high probability long setups. And I know lots of traders with lots of money, they're not taking this. And I've worked at the trading firms also. If things like this did not happen, they are not going to participate. So yeah, that's why I'm not changing anything. Basically, it was still the same as I said the last time. The last video was like 2 weeks ago I made this. So it could be here in the middle, but don't look at this time horizon. I'm not looking at that when I draw these patterns, but yeah, it could easily take a couple of more weeks, even 2 months before we're going to finish this job. Um, yeah, markets like unfinished jobs. So yeah, I keep being on the camp that this is going to happen sooner or later. It does not mean I'm not taking any long positions because there is still plenty of good trading going on, especially when this leg is going to keep continuing for another couple of weeks, months. Um, so yeah, I'm having long positions. Yesterday at the before the headline, I was already covering my shorts. Um, I did write that in my Patreon chat right away. When I do something, I'll put it down there. And then after the news event came that the 2 weeks um, of ceasefire deal had been made, then I closed the last. No, not all the shorts, but most of it. So yeah, it is not how I preferred how this situation would move on. It would be much better if we would have taken one more leg down here and then go sideways, because then you don't have that problem. And then you don't have all the people, all the big traders at trading firms that are not going to take any long position because it still needs to, yeah, it still needs to go there. Um, All right, continuing now for the members. So we are going to um, hymns and hers.